good afternoon to all the people that will be hearing this event. This is my first event in English. Usually what I do, what we do is event in Spanish, but today we are starting like the African American month, to remember the history and the achievement of the community of African in the United States. I would like to say, because at the end, if you are Caribbean and you are Black, you are African American also. So we got a really great opportunity today to hear from one outlier, someone that do something great. My name is Fermin Diaz. I am entrepreneur instructor for Penn State University. And today I am sharing space with Carla Cabrera. She's our intern from Penn State Hazleton. She studied business. Today we'll have the great pleasure to have Michelle Hayward. She's founder and CEO of Positive Hire, a tech company engineering to bridge the gap. Give me a second. To bridge the gap between business organization and underrepresented women in science, technology, engineering, and math, like we call STEM. As an experienced project manager in the energy sector, Michelle is armed with a technical sales and technology transfer experience. Michelle's vision is not only help underrepresented women in STEM find inclusive workplace, but it's also to prepare business organization to receive them. In addition, the company assists the business organization in the recruit process approach that make Positive Hire the premier recruiting platform for underrepresented women STEM professional. Michelle holds a bachelor in science degree in civil engineering and a master degree in science of industrial management from Clemson University. Today we will have a presentation called From Building the U.S. Power Grid to Build a Tech Startup. I want to remember to all the people that are with us today is African American History Month. If you got time, read about the great achievement of great African Americans in this country and how they bring innovation, to all us. So after have this brief description of Michelle, and I present Michelle. Michelle, I want to know who is Michelle, but in your own word, who are you?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. I had a friend, a new friend. I'm not like Drake. I do make new friends. Um, I would say I'm a blurred, so a black nerd. I love being a nerd, and what I mean by that, really digging into the different things that I like sci-fi TV shows and movies. I don't do like a lot of romance movies. I'd rather go look at Transformers. um, I am the auntie that won't buy you the video game. And so I don't have kids. I will buy you a board game because I want us to do something interactive. And so I am also the auntie that will bake different things with you in the kitchen, but long as they're not cookies, because then we can use them as bricks. So, and I love travel, so I also miss that part right now since we're in the midst of a pandemic. Is getting on a plane, whether it's the U.S. Or somewhere, just really just going somewhere and sitting on a beach. No place with snow. It might be a mountain, but not the wintertime. I'm not that person. So that's a bit about Michelle. I was always the middle child. My parents said I was weird. I would like say my ABCs backwards. I was like, well, it has to be a different way to do it. So I was always looking for a challenge. And I have a mini me, a younger a nephew, and his mom is like, he's weird like you. So he's always looking at things differently, and he likes the Flash and Black Lightning like me, and we're the only two in our family that talk about these things. So it's really interesting to have finally somebody who I can relate to. So that's a bit about the blurred part of Michelle Hayward.
Carla, I think you got the next question. You are on mute.
I'm sorry. I just
It's
noted.
okay. It's okay.
Miss Hayward, how was your experience building Power Bills as an Afro-American woman?
I was the African American woman on the job site. So I spent literally, I would say, the bulk of the 12 years I was in construction. I was usually, I'm trying to think, on the job site, I was the only Black engineer. I was the only woman engineer on site my entire career. I was fortunate. The first job I did, I worked with two Mexican Americans, one on the client side, one on my employer side, and then after that, it was still men, unless there was like an admin or document controls. But it was usually just me, and that can be a very very lonely and sobering experience, especially for that amount of time. So building community for me was really important, and I leveraged social media and people. I've made real life friends that I've never met before. We'll send each other gifts. They have our real phone numbers and addresses, because that's really how I learned to build community. Because sometimes I was in a city like outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was my first job, and then other times I was out in the middle of nowhere when I was in Texas building a grid. And when I mean nowhere, I mean I would see bulls if it's a cattle ranch, or I was literally in the middle of somebody's property and there were no people, no houses, and maybe no cell phone service. So it can be a very, very sobering experience because you're there with nothing but white men doing the work or either managing the work.
Do you feel scared anytime when you was in the field, like out there in the middle of nowhere, being a woman, being black? You never feel scared?
Okay, so let's talk about that. Yes and no. And what I mean by that is I grew up in rural South Carolina. I've seen the Klan March. And so that is the reality I've lived, if that makes sense. And so being in construction, it was still a similar reality. It didn't change. I was just not at home. I was somewhere working. And so, in that aspect, I still take the same precautions or more precautions where I'm telling people where I'm going and things like that. But at the end of the day, I still had to show up. What I learned to do, which was build relationships with other people, usually men. And that way, I remember being on a job in Pittsburgh for almost 4 years. I was never catcalled on that job. I literally had built a relationship with the general superintendent from one of the civil engineering, civil design. Yeah, they did design and construction firms, but he was also over the union. So everybody knew him. He knew everybody. And if whatever he said was to be done or not done, that's what happened. And it didn't dawn on me for years later. People, so many women were talking about their experience. Like I never had that experience. And I realized later I had that experience because of the relationship I had cultivated with him. Like literally, he would come by my desk at the construction site. He's like, "Hey, Michelle, you have any vitamin C pills?" And I was like, "Why didn't this man just ever go buy vitamin C pills?" But it was really just that build a relationship and come talk to me and different things like that. And so it really was interesting how for 4 years I could walk that site. I was never catcalled. And this was in my 20s, younger days, my younger days. So I leverage that as well.
Question. Why, if you was doing like well in the engineer field, building, power grid, moving from one place to another, being like young, why you pivot to another like industry? What moved you to make this change? Why?
So I've always known that I would have my own business. I just never knew what it was going to be. And so I was in construction, I was working, and I just really thought my career would had to be so far behind those in my network. I felt as though I wasn't moving and being promoted at the level that I wanted to and should be. And not that I was wrong, that I wasn't progressing the way I should have been. What happened was I reached out to other black engineers in my network, other Latinas in my network who were engineers, and I found out that I was doing better than many of them. I was talking to black women who were saying they were rock stars early in their careers. And one literally went off, got married. When she came back, her employer was like, she was not doing anything correct. Like everything she did was wrong. And so she was really trying, she just went from job to job to job. She get pregnant. She was literally on maternity leave. A company laid her off. And so she was just, it was so many different barriers they were encountering. And but I knew who the VP of engineering was by name, and he knew my name. I knew who the senior director was of over project management or whatever. And they didn't have access to these people, but I was hundreds of miles, thousands of miles away from the main office that I reported to. I was out, let's say I was in Illinois, the office was in New Jersey, but they knew my name. And so it was really important on how I had grown a brand, I had grown my reputation in the company, and I was able to grow. And so when I learned the things that I did were really positioning me differently to advance my career, so it's like, okay, now I understand what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to help other women who look like me, who are engineers, to really stay in their careers. Because at this point, we're all 10 plus years in our career, and they're looking at leaving. I had a classmate literally leave her engineering career, go get a nursing degree, do nursing, then decide she didn't like nursing, come back to engineering. So how can we keep that talent? And so that's really why I left and created Positive Hire, was really to retain the talent that companies say they can't find, because it's truly not a pipeline problem. It's a culture problem. And if you're changing the cultures in your organizations, we will stay with the ability to grow and advance our careers. When you have toxic cultures, we're more likely to leave because we're not being treated well, we're not advancing our careers. And that's really why what caused me to start Positive Hire.
Good. What do you think a company need to do to retain and to attract more women, Hispanic, Black, and other, minority? What do you think they need to provide in order to do that? And a second question is, it's really important to have different kind of people in your company, and why?
Yes. Okay. So that is a I have a framework that I think works for, unfortunately, many organizations. Number one, starting with the C suite, right? The very top of the organization. Those people in management at that level need to do their own anti racist work, because they need to understand what racism is. They think they know, right? Oh, it's when the police do something. But on your individual level, what biases and what racist actions and activities do you actually do? And you don't even know they're racist, unfortunately. And so lots of times these organizations, these C suite people, are making decisions. They are putting in a chief diversity officer, giving them some money, but they don't, but change isn't staying, isn't remaining in the organization. They don't understand why. Well, number one, you don't understand what racism is. And so you haven't done any work on your personal, your individual level. So that's number one. Doing your own individual change at the C suite. Organizations then need to do an internal culture assessment to understand what is going on in the organization. Had a great discussion last night just about numbers, statistics, and a linear regression. We have all of these dots on a graph, and then you have a line and say, oh, on the average, these are where we are. And we was like, well, that's wrong. Because if you're talking about marginalized people, underrepresented people, underestimated people, they're nowhere near that line. that is not your average. So if you're going to create an equitable workplace, you need to be looking at the dots that are furthest away from that line to figure out how do you help them? What do they need in order to create an equitable workplace? And so you need to do some assessments in your organization and really look at where are the black people, where are the women, where are your trans community, where's your gay employees, where are your single moms, right? To real even age discrimination. Where are these people in the organization so you can understand who is encountering what and then finding out why? Because it may not, if you look in black organizations, run and own organizations, they don't generally have a problem getting black talent, right? So maybe you have a gender equity in pay, but until you look at that data, you don't know who's encountering what in your organization. That's looking at your people analytics, doing surveys like, do you feel certain ways? Have you experienced certain things in your organization? So it's some quantitative data and there are qualitative data. So written answers, maybe a scale of 1 to 5, I like or dislike, and so forth. So organizations really need to do that. Then they'll go through what I call a culture shift, and they start making different changes in practices and policies. They do internal training and coaching from their top management down, especially the mid management. Because what we see, especially for Black women, it is nearly impossible if you can get into mid management to go past mid management. And so, really training in that area is going to be essential. And you're always going to be doing assessments to see where you're moving and where you're going. A few years ago, the company Salesforce was on 60 Minutes. Their co CEO and their chief human resource officer were on 60 Minutes. And this chief human resource officer had gone to the co CEO and said, "Hey, I think we have a pay gap." And the CEO asked the chief human resource officer, "Well, how big is it?" She was like, "I don't know. I want your permission to look, and you have to agree to fix it." But he didn't know how big it was, so maybe it wasn't big. She goes and she looks, it's a few $1,000,000, right? And so between men and women, so they level out the pay. Then they come back again, and there's another pay gap a year or two later. They kept buying these companies that still were having gender pay gaps that they would have to go through after they acquired them, and they would have to close the gap between genders. And so that's why you have to continuously do these measures. But he agreed, the CEO agreed to fix it, not knowing how much money it was going to take. So organizations can collect this data, and often sometimes they have some of the data internal, but they really need to start assessing and looking at the data to understand about their employees. Are people leaving after 3 years, 7 years? Are they leaving after they have kids because you don't pay enough for a family, right? And so even in engineering, there are women from a Society of Women Engineers survey that said it was cheaper for them to quit than it was to pay for childcare
Wow.
as engineers. So
As engineer.
as a woman engineer, they were not getting paid enough to cover their child care. And so everybody thinks we're making this great living, but when the discrimination is built in, especially in the salary basis, they were quitting. And so you want to go through that, and then you can bring in and talk about diversity recruitment once you've done that culture shift. And now the culture is where you're retaining that talent. That's how you retain that talent. You're making the changes that need to be made in order to retain that talent in the culture shift. Then you recruit talent. What organizations do, they recruit talent to diversify their talent pipeline. They bring them in and they churn them out. Oh, it's not us. We're just not recruiting the right people, because what we don't have in organizations is accountability. Who is telling, who is saying, you know what, CEO, you're supposed to retain 3% of your black employees. You only retain one. They're not taking away bonuses. They're not getting fired. They're not getting demoted. They're like, let the chief diversity officer go, who generally is not a C-suite. They don't sit. It has a chief name, but it's not considered a C-suite position. They oftentimes don't have the right authority and power to make certain changes and decisions. And so it's really, so they end up letting the chief diversity officer go as the accountable person when they oftentimes, too often, don't have the power and the other resources they really need to bring in sustainable change. And so to me, the model is as little as accountability to those that really have power and authority, and they push the blame and accountability to those who don't have that authority. So in a long answer, that is question number one. What's question two? Because it's been a minute.
I really forget the question number two. Did you remember, Carla?
To be honest, no.
It's okay. I got another one. Doesn't matter. Why we need, why we need to create all those help to Black and brown and women if I got employees that I can hire and they don't need that? Why I need to put, if there are people that I don't need to do anything, I don't need to create a good environment, I don't need to do anything. Why I need to spend money to make sure that people Black and brown are good? It's an extra dollar that I need to spend. What make world that I spend this money? Why?
Okay. So, and I remember your second question. It was about the importance of having a diverse workplace. Why you should
Got
have
it.
a workplace. Okay. So, because it ties into what you just said. What happens is organizations are creating products and services, and products can be a digital product, so software as well as physical products. What happens is they're now convincing us that, or trying to convince us, we need this, right? Well, I don't want that. Number one, those are skinny jeans, and the way I'm built as a Black woman does not fit me. That's just not going to happen. And so they're making products and services for people they never asked what they needed, how they felt about it, and they missed the mark. So they're losing all of this money because they base everything on white people. And they base everything on a religion we don't practice. They base everything on the way our hair is not. And then they've spent all of this money and it's not working out. And so they now solved a problem from what is now become, that was once a majority race in the US, is that is now becoming a minority race. It's not solving a problem, and they're not being profitable, right? And they're not helping people if that's their goal. So when you bring in diverse voices and experiences and thought processes, you are able to solve problems through different lenses. And what I mean by that is, if you're differently abled, or as commonly known as disabled, you may say, hey, I can't read this. It's like, well, everybody else can read it. It's like, well, I need you to make certain adjustments to the screen, to the font. It can't be in cursive, it has to be in bold print. And but you don't know that until you have people on your team to build that. And so we'll look at, I don't know if anybody has ever used any of the soap dispensers in the bathrooms, or the try to wash your hands, and it's supposed to turn on when you put your hand under the faucet, and it doesn't. It can't read it, and you're trying to use your palm because it's the lightest side of your hand, right? Because it can't read them, it can't see the melanin. And so there was an issue in not testing it. Facial recognition, especially being used against Black and brown people, and has a high margins of error. And so now these products have a deficiency, or they're having a negative impact on Black and brown people, because we were never consulted, we were never included in their development. And the same thing happens oftentimes to women. How many of you have a car? If you're a woman, you're probably under 5'5". Let's say you're 5 feet to 5'5". The average man is about 5'8", 5'9" in the US. The car seats are designed for the average height of a man, build of a man. So when a woman is in a car accident and an airbag deflates and things, it is usually not designed to protect her. It is designed to protect a man. And so it's really, and the same thing we often see in medical devices. They will design medical devices for men first. Women have smaller body frames, have smaller organs, and so those devices are now too large for women. And so women can't are now, oh, well, we have to go back and we'll have to redesign it for a woman's body. And so you have all of these different issues that come up because they never built out a diverse team. They never brought in different thought processes and experiences to really understand how to help anybody that is marginalized. And so that's really why you want to diversify your work teams. You want to diversify your workplace. And it's not even about being sometimes American as it is in having those different experiences, those different races, different languages, ethnic backgrounds that really bring in different approaches. Because I can tell you right now, we have a saying, um, in black communities, you can take a diamond and nickel and make $1. You will stretch it. And so oftentimes we are very, very creative with the limited resources we have to solve so many problems. And so that's why we have the traffic light, the ironing board, and different things that Black people in the US have created because of necessity and the lack of resources. So I'll pause there. But that is really why you want the diversity in your team to really solve these problems in your organization and on your teams to solve problems in a different fashion.
Thank you, Michelle. Could you tell us a little bit more about your business?
Sure. Positive Hire, we do several things, but the first thing I did with Positive Hire was build out community. It was important to me because I was the only Black woman. I was the only woman sometimes on the outside of the work trailer. And I started Positive Hire out as a community. Actually, this year marks our sixth annual Women of Color in STEM Virtual Summit. We hold it every February in Engineers Week. And so the first thing I did was start hosting webinars where we were educating, providing professional development for our women in the community. So we do professional development, we do career development, wherein we'll do prep for interviews and things like that, and of course community. Then on the other side, what we do is people analytics. So we're a B2B or a business to business people analytics software company, and we'll analyze that data I talked about so organizations understand where the gaps are, whether it's a pay gap and other things going on. So we do that type of work. We do diversity recruitment, and we do diversity, equity, and inclusion training because it's a human problem. So tech will help identify where the gaps may lie, but the humans, we have to come in and we still have to solve the problem and walk it through those organizations. So those are the things we do here at Positive Hire.
I love them. Also, Michelle, can you tell me, as a Black woman and entrepreneur, could you describe like how challenging was to come up with your own business?
You know, the idea is great. What the challenge is for some of us, because I'm what's considered a social impact startup. Everybody goes, "Oh, you're a nonprofit." Whenever something is black or brown, unless it's a construction company, it must be a nonprofit, and it doesn't have to be. We can build wealth, we can build legacy, we can positively impact our community by being able to hire within our community. So I came back home to my small town in rural South Carolina to build my business because it was really important for me to do that, to bring that knowledge and experience home and really to be able to impact my local community. And so the challenge was for people to really understand I'm a tech startup, I'm a social impact tech startup, and this is the problem I'm solving. The other part of that was I remember 3 years ago being an accelerator, and a venture capitalist goes, "Well, well, can't LinkedIn or Glassdoor solve this problem?" I said they could if they cared. This is pre the murder of George Floyd. Now, maybe the first, from June of 2020 to December of 2020, they may have cared. They're back to where they were in 2019. But I still stand on the change will come because we care, we see the need, and we have to solve this problem for us. And so the harder part is convincing investors that this is a worthwhile investment. And you know what I don't? I don't sell it to investors. You know what I do? I go out and I tell people what work I do,
To
what
the pool of
impact
that.
I'm making, and the investors come to me. And people are always surprised when I say, well, investors have come to me and wanted to invest, or they want me to keep them updated on my progress. And because I don't pitch investors, I'd rather work to generate revenue. And then when I'm ready to scale, go out and talk to investors that I've built relationship with. Because I will tell you, it is not like Shark Tank out here in the tech startup space. Um, and you can't go in with just an idea on a napkin. They want to know, how many customers do you have? How much money have you made? Do you have what they call a minimal viable product? Something that people can software wise go in and engage with. And what are they doing? And what are they saying about the product? And even with that, if you're a Black founder and you're a woman, you're probably still going to be part of less than 1% that is going to get investment. Matter of fact, the numbers for women founders that received venture capital in 2021 came out, and it was just at 2%. It had declined over the last 5 years. And so it's even hard. They're like, oh, it's so easy to get money. They're like, what money? Because we're not getting it.
No.
And I know many Black women that are pitching to and going to speak to investors, and they're hitting so many roadblocks right now. So, um, you're going to hit roadblocks. What I will say is, figure out what is that one service you can sell. You can do it well, and you can get paid for it. And so, like, I want to be $100,000 business. Like, great. What is $100 product or service you can sell to 1,000 people, or sell 1,000 times in a year, right? Is it lawn service? Is it cutting down trees? Is it cutting back? Is it painting a room? Like, what does that look like that you can do well over and over again? And people think it's the craziest thing. When I started Positive Hire, I did not do all of those things that I listed. We started with one thing. You know what that was? A webinar. And it was free, but it was bringing in content that the women really needed, that would keep them coming back. And you have to sell that one thing, and you have to be consistent with it and improve. Don't just be consistently bad, but get better at
Yeah.
it. But consistently show up. If you know your work is okay, well, then you want to show up 15 minutes early to do okay work. Because the person that shows up late and does great work, sometimes people don't want to deal with that. They don't want that person in their way. They want you to do what they need you to do and get out. And they'll be okay with average work if you're there early or on time. The person that does
Admit it.
great work that's late irks my nerves. That's just me. But you have to think about, what does your customer need? And the last thing I will say, we think we know what customers need. I was solving a problem for me, but I wasn't selling the solution to me. I wanted these employers to pay for it. So I could talk to my friends all day, and I talked to my friends too long, and I should have been making money sooner. And so I went out and started talking to more and more human resources people, more and more business owners and engineering leaders about their needs for having Black women, Latinas, Indigenous women who are engineers and tech professionals in their organizations, and what value would that bring to them. And literally, that is how I figured out what to sell to them and what we could do to generate revenue. So, will we always sell services? Maybe not. But what will happen is, we're still finding a way to solve the problem, which is to retain as many Black, Latinx, and Indigenous women who are scientists, technology, and engineering professionals in their fields, and not let them continue to be pushed out. So I will pause there and see what else you got for, or if we have any questions from any of the viewers.
Let me check in the platform. We got a few people saying, but they don't have question. I got a question for you. If you, at this point in your career, you left engineering to do Positive Hire, if you can go back and change something, what you will change?
I would say way more money. I would say way more money. Um, what would I change? I would say, for what we're building out on the people analytics side, maybe I would learn to like SAS, coding in SAS, which is a software language, SAS. And that's really the only thing I would change. Well, let me take that back. The other thing is, I worked in technical sales, and it was inside sales. As a business owner, I'm gonna tell y'all a secret if you haven't started yet. You are always going to be selling. Always. That is your job as a business owner. You cannot farm that out, especially in the first few years of your business. You need to be the one doing the sales. You need to be one talking to leads, current customers, previous customers, because you need to know what's going on. I wish I understood that part of business so I could have valued and learned more from my outside sales manager that I helped with, because I he would, like, if he wasn't available, he would tell them to call into the office. Even though he was in Florida, I was in North Carolina. We were a national sales team. But what was really important was I hated it. I was bored. But what I should have seen in it was the opportunity to learn more about products, learn how to understand, to listen better. Because also, when you do sales, it's not about talking, it's about listening and figuring out if you're, number one, asking the customer or the lead, the person you're talking to, the right questions to really understand what their problem is. Because people can tell you, oh, there's a hole in my roof. Well, what they didn't tell you was the roof really was replaced, and something there was a reenactment of something, and they threw a cannon through the roof. So they don't need a new roof, they just really need to be patched. But you think, oh, this is a whole roof job. Like, nah, the roof was replaced 2 years ago. So you really, it's really about asking the right questions and listening intently, and that's really what sales is. So I would change those two: to save more money and really pay attention when I was doing sales to really understand how to do sales better.
How can you balance when you start a business the process of that you are the one that should be selling, and also you are the one that are creating the value for the customer? When I say doing that round, how you in your perspective can balance those two facts, that you deliver but at the same time you sell? You are the same guy that make the pizza, and you are the deliver guy, and you are the person that pick the phone. So how you balance that?
Well, in our day and age, not when we were growing up. Nowadays, we have these great things like Upwork and Fiverr and places like that. Even online jobs, PH. So if you need a virtual assistant in the Philippines. So what the other thing I would tell you is, and interns are really great. I heard Penn State has great interns. Carla heard the same thing. And so what happens is, you want to, now you know what you're going to sell, right? What I always People always like, I don't know if I need help or not. The first thing you want to do is, like, what are your revenue generating activities? So that's making the sales call and talking to people, right? But who is going to look up the businesses and get the person's name you need to talk to, and phone number and email? You can get somebody else to do that data mining. You want to be the one doing the phone calls. You're the one that have to do the pitch meetings. But maybe you go to Fiverr and have somebody design your pitch deck for, and your brochures, but you the one that have to come up with the ideas for the copy, and then you'll send it to an intern who is great, is an English major, to clean up your grammatical errors. Remember, I'm an engineer. And I can spell, so yeah, I just have the t-shirts that I engineer misspelled twice, and just at the end it just says I'm good at math. So so so, what are those things that you absolutely have to do in your business? Number one is what you need to write down. Then, what are the things that have to be done, but somebody else can do them? And that's really where you start. And some of those things are just projects, like somebody designing your brochures. That's a project. But somebody, having a service answer the phone for inbound sales calls. Maybe they only charge you by the number of calls you get, and then as you grow, you like, let me get off this individual call and let me just get like a 300 a month or 500 a month inbound call plan. I don't know, or digital phone number. So you figure out as you grow how to flip things onto different service plans, how to get out for Google Voice and maybe go to Dialpad, things like that. And so you really start tracking what are the things you do, and there's software that'll track your computer and your mobile devices to see the type of work you're doing. And that's how you learn how to farm things out. But I would generally say, in the beginning until you get that, even before you get that first client, if you can get a virtual assistant or an intern to do some of this work, that really helps. And also setting up your standard operating procedure. And what I mean by that, you in your head know how to bake the cake. You in your head know how to paint the walls orange and beige, and you know how to put on the stencil. But if you go out to hire somebody and you have one job site to do, they have another job site you need them to do, they're going to do it their way, which may not be your way or the way the customer has specified. So you need to write down step by step. This is my company's procedure for doing this type of work. And so just start creating those and getting those things out of your head. And one easy way to do that, especially if you're doing stuff on a computer, is doing something like on Zoom and just recording it, and that, or Loom, if you can get a free Loom account and just do short video recordings, and then having that intern or virtual assistant transcribe all of that and write it up and do screenshots as well. And now you have your standard operating procedures on how to respond to emails, on how to set up sales calls, and how to do certain things. And it really just helps you start from day one to build out to eventually pass everything on to other people after you grow your business from you as the first only full-time person to a part-time assistant or intern to a team of 5. And I'm at a team of 3 internal, and then we have a group of 7 contractors. So I have a team of 10. I'm the only full-time person, and then we have various part-time employees, and then contractors that do work on a regular basis for the company. So just grow little by little as you find out what you need.
That I think that is a good one, because sometimes we start business like you mentioned, and we cover all the bases, but we don't think about grow and create those manual of operation for future, growing. I think it's important to start to thinking big in the terms of the organization of your business, because also that help yourself to have like a standard way to operate every single time, and then you don't need to go back and spend time looking for something that you forget every single time. I think that's powerful, and I need to apply that in myself.
I'll say this much: if it makes it so much easier when you go to hire, because you know what to write in as the job. I need you to know how to do this, and if you know how to use this software, that's a plus, but it's not necessary. It just makes the whole process way easier. And guess what? You know what happens when you think about growth? You're more likely to keep going. Because after a while, after that first year or year and a half of it just being you, you're like, I don't know if I can do this another day or another month or a month, another 6 months. But when you think of growth, it really helps you keep going. Like, one day I'm gonna have somebody else do this. And guess what? Sometimes that other person is your teenage kid. So 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 just leverage your family. My sister's my director of operations. One of my younger sisters, I have 3. So one of my younger sisters, my director of operations. My product manager was my intern. She finished her computer engineering degree. I hired her as my product manager. Her professor that referred her is my lead developer. She's no longer a professor. She's my lead developer, software developer. So you're going to find these people. I've been through a couple assistants until I found a one that really works well with me and really gets me. And it's okay for people to come and go. You can test out people. You don't have to go out and just hire people. You can take contractors off of Fiverr and Upwork and other places, and even interns, and test them out and see how they work with you in your organization and your business, and then just offer them a job or a steady contract with the organization, because a W-2 can be scary for you, right? And so maybe you just want to do a contract with them, and that way you don't have to worry about employment taxes. So you don't have to do it one way. You can do it. I do it various different ways. I've had employees in Texas, I have employees in Indiana, employees here in South Carolina with me, and contractors over in the Philippines, in the Middle East, in Europe, and here in the US. So just be very very fluid about what you on where you will hire, but absolutely know what you need that person to do. And that makes it a whole lot better for you. And you know your budget. So track your dollars and your cents.
Yeah. Uh, Knowing all your path from civil engineer, building grid in different part of US, building this new company, what is what is your future? What are you expecting from the future? What you will work for? What is the direction that you will push?
So, Positive Hire, this year we're pushing out our B2B or people analytics software. So, we're going to test out this concept all of 2021. If it goes well, we'll grow that side of the business. If it doesn't go well, we won't develop the software. We might develop something else because people that we do sales calls with say, hey, we don't want to pay for this. This is our problem, and we're willing to pay for that. So we may build something else out. And so for us, especially at the start, you're going to test a lot of things and you really, really want to listen well. Then on the other side of that, 5, 10 years out, I do see myself going back into construction. I'm third generation. My grandfather had his own construction company. Then his 3 sons, my 3 uncles, all worked in construction. I have one cousin in construction. I was the other cousin. So for me, it has been it's something generational for us to be in construction. So I would love to build out a construction software company with my nieces and nephews, and have them have legacy in their own tech company that is around something that has been in our family right now for 3 generations, which is construction. So long story, I daydream about that. When you are an entrepreneur, you have all of these business ideas. Stay the course with one until you get it down. You got those SOPs and you're making money before you go out and start, another business.
So you can
Perfect.
see that is construction would be like on your blood.
Yes. Yeah. Most definitely.
Good. I want to thank you, for the time of being here with us and, respond a few questions. I know that you are very busy and take time of your night that's supposed to be resting to keep, doing your work and have, been here with us is a great honor for us. I want personally to thank you in name of, Penn State University, Hazleton Lunchbox, for the time that you give to us. And I want to mention something very quick before you get out and say something and we could. I want to share very quick someone. We are in the, Black Month history, and I want to share about Garrett Morgan. He's a Black inventor. He didn't invent the gas mask and the traffic light that we have in the streets. It's not the same one because change in the time, but he was the inventor. And I like to show that so people can know how many invention African American did in this country and how much they put to make sure that this country thrive. So I want to make sure that in this month, in every single presentation, we know something about someone that we should be proud. Michelle, if you have a few words for us before we could.
No dream should be left to die. I encourage you to work that dream little by little. If it's 15 minutes a day, it's 15 minutes a day. Do not measure your day one with somebody else's year 10. It is very unfair to yourself. It is even more unfair to the people you're supposed to serve. So don't give up because you were created to live that dream, to make that idea a business, to serve people, and they're waiting on you.
That's a really valuable advice. I would take under it and apply it to myself.
Very good.
Good. So to all the people that was in the live stream in Facebook, I say thank you for the time of being here. Michelle, thank you. Carla, muchas gracias. Thank you for your support. The day of today, we will have more event during this month of Black History. And this one is the first one and my first webinar in English, but won't be the last. So thank you, Michelle, for, be the experiment. In other words, with me, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the invitation. And Carla, it was great to meet you. And everybody out in live stream land, thank you so much. And be sure to connect with Positive Hire or me. And remember, I'm the Michelle with the 1L.
Perfect. I will share your, web page, everything in our page. So if someone need to consult something from you, I will direct, to your page. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.